Hey, coming up, we have stories about updates, and more updates. Stepmoms overstepping, embarrassing your child, refusing to pay for services you didn't ask for, dating the person who tried to rob you, lactose intolerance in competition with your spouse's dead partner, and baby names. You know, just the normal weekly dose of drama. Update for the post you saw today on TikTok. Title is, will I be the astronaut if I didn't get a mole removed for my friend's wedding? Hi again, everybody. I'm just going to post a quick update because I have to leave for work soon. Firstly, I have made the decision not to remove my mole. I realized that it was way too big of an ask even for a bride, and it didn't seem like she had good intentions behind asking me. Many of the comments were to go through with the procedure and then drop out of the wedding, and I just don't feel right doing that. Especially since I don't even know if I wanted it removed in the first place. Okay, there's all you needed to know. She wasn't sure. She wasn't ready. I haven't told Zoe about my decision yet, so I don't know how she's going to react. I haven't told the other bridesmaids about what Zoe asked me to do, or if they were asked to do something similar, as some comments were suggesting. I think I'm going to reach out to them and ask. I will keep everyone posted. Smiley face. So the conversation that Candy Thunder and I had about Photoshop was, at maximum, I think that Zoe could ask for permission to ask the photographer to Photoshop it out if it bothered her that bad. That was like at max acceptability. She's still an asshole for even thinking that or asking that, but at max, that would be like not requiring an actual physical change to her appearance here. I'm glad that she said that because she wasn't ready, she wasn't sure that it's something she wanted to do. She just no. Great. I'm glad that she made that call. It's odd to me that she doesn't immediately have this, no, she's a huge asshole for just asking me to do this in the first place. She didn't have this immediate knee-jerk reaction like, hell no, you're an asshole. That's ridiculous. Don't ever ask me to change something about my physical appearance for your benefit, B. She still is like, I feel like she might have had some nefarious, malicious intent behind it. You think? You think maybe? Maybe? Yeah. It was there. This is news to me, though, the whole people thinking that she might have asked other bridesmaids to do something similar or something if they were asked to do something as well. Like, everyone has to sacrifice a piece of their body to be a member of this bridal party. What were you asked to do? A toe. Mine was my mole. What was yours? A lock of hair. It's odd. I think our opinion here remains the same. Zoe is an ask on one. For asking it in the first place. Even if she had taken the Photoshop route and asked for that, she still would be an asshole, just a less severe one. Maybe. But I'm glad that OP pumped the brakes on it and was like, no, I'm just not going to do it because she's not ready herself to do it. And as we talked about on the podcast and in the post today, it doesn't matter if it was her best friend asking her significant other, her mother, anybody. It has to be her decision. She has to be the one who is ready and willing to take that step. It has to be her idea. And like we talked about, if she let her friend pay for it and then backed out, I think she would go through life later on looking at her face and just always seeing this emotional scar of what had happened there. So yeah, that's other people. What does that have to do? What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? You know what I mean? It shouldn't be any kind of reflection of herself, which says to me that she already has this bar established for herself. And now she's demanding that all of her friends get to it as well, which is ridiculous. Ridiculous. It's not a big deal, but I want you to cut off part of your face to be in my wedding. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder again with another Reddit story for you. This one is titled, Am I the Astronaut for Embarrassing My Daughter for Her Own Sake? My 40 female daughter, Dana, 17 female, has a stutter. Sometimes it is even hard to understand what she's trying to say and connect her words. She used to speak a lot when she was younger and did not care about it, but then she started talking less and now she avoids talking. I found out that sometimes when she goes out alone, she pretends to be mute and uses her phone to communicate if she needs to. One day we went to have dinner. My husband, 40 male, and I, and our 4 kids, 16 female, 14 male, and 10 male. Usually when the waiter comes, we all say our orders individually. This time, Dana said that she didn't know what she wanted to order, so we could choose for her. I knew this was a way of her avoiding speaking. The waiter came and we said our orders, but instead of ordering for her, I said, "Dana, it's your turn." She was confused for a second and didn't say anything. I continued to say, "Just choose anything." She tried to order, but the words were hard and the waiter couldn't understand, so he handed her the paper and pen to write. I asked him to wait for her to finish. It took her a while and the other kids started to complain, so my husband asked her to point to it and he ordered it. I was upset that he did that. We agreed to put her on the spot to make her talk and not be embarrassed anymore or rely on us to do all of the talking for her. It was awkward. Dana's mood seemed to change and it became awkward. When we returned, my husband explained that it was going to take forever and that it wasn't the right setting. Afterward, Dana came and said to please not do that again. I explained her reasoning, but she was upset. Were we wrong? Before we dive into my personal thoughts on that, let's go over some comments on here. Comment, "There's no other explanation. You're filthy rich, so the money thing is pure greed. You knew when she was a baby and did absolutely nothing, not even a Google search or anything. You knew she was being bullied by her peers and did nothing. She asked and you did nothing. Countless teachers and others have told you to do something and you did nothing. Actually, you did worse than nothing. Instead, you purposely went out of your way to publicly humiliate her. You allowed your other children to make fun of the very thing you have done nothing to help her with. You planned to hurt her. You made the choice. You have been making this choice for years. You enjoy making her suffer. You can't even fucking apologize to her. You like it. You like hurting your daughter." OP's response, "I understand what you're saying. I do. And as I said, I admit to making wrong decisions. There isn't much we can do about bullying. We told her how to deal with them. We are trying to fix stuff, and I am working on that. I didn't mean to humiliate her. Our kids aren't mean. They don't do it to make her feel bad. They're just siblings. But we stop them whenever anyone says something mean. I find it hard to apologize because I don't usually apologize to people younger than me, especially as a mother." The fuck? What? Is that some kind of unwritten policy? You should never apologize to someone younger than you. What Great Depression poster did she find this policy on? I know that this might not be the best according to many comments, but I am planning to put that aside and apologize, both my husband and I. I love my daughter and won't enjoy hurting her. She is a part of me. Oh man, OP. What are you doing with your life? Instead of putting her in speech therapy, instead of getting her help for the problem, they let her learn to just recluse. There was never a solution path offered here. There was never a solution sought out here. Instead, they told her to freaking Elsa this, like, just conceal it, don't feel it, don't let it show. That's how she was taught to deal with this thing. There was never any help offered here. The fact that they have this mentality of, I don't usually apologize to people younger than me, makes me think that they might also have some kind of mindset about admitting weakness in trying to find like a medical reason for there being something wrong. I'm the first one to say, words are freaking hard. In this case, if your kid has a stutter, wouldn't you want them to have the opportunity to overcome that? Instead, they took the just deal with it route and then literally just embarrass her on purpose as a way of overcoming. You think that's going to fix the stutter? Putting her on the spot and embarrassing her? Do you think that's going to fix it? That and the I don't apologize to people younger than me, those two make sense together. Rub some dirt on it and walk it off mentality. It will not work for this. The question here was, am I the astronaut for embarrassing my daughter for her own sake? Yeah, this was a terrible thing to do. And it's not just this one thing. It is a lifetime. It is 17 years worth, or ever since she started to try to talk, let's say freaking 16 years worth of mistakes that have compounded and compounded and compounded and culminated to this one moment where you were like, YOLO. I'm going to send it. I'm going to take all of these bad decisions I've ever made. I'm going to make one that outdoes them all. And I'm going to intentionally embarrass her in front of people. Like that's going to fix it. Yeah, Ma, you're an ASCOM 1. This is ridiculous. Like, you can connect to resources to get speech therapy at no cost. Money was never a prohibitor for this. It was pride. And that makes it so much worse. So there's still hope for OP's daughter, not for OP. Point of no return. We have a follower submission for you. This one is, will I be the astronaut for telling stepmom to back off? Story. I have been hesitant about submitting this story because I feel like I might just be the asshole and overreacting, but I love your input in stories and would love to hear what you have to say, so here it goes. Would I be the astronaut for telling my child's stepmom to back off and let me parent when I am present? Backstory. For the past several years, my ex and I and step-parents would attend appointments, parent-teacher conferences, activities, etc. for my child together. Anytime we do, my husband takes a step back and allows my ex to be a dad in these moments and to be the one to talk, ask questions, parent our child, and do what dads do. Stepmom does not do the same. She talks over me to answer questions or give input on situations, and even interfered when I was scheduling an appointment to schedule it herself for a different day. One time, my child had to be given a vaccine and was upset and afraid. I started talking to my child when, what do you know, stepmom calls my child over to her so she could talk to her instead. I was on a phone call with my child when we were saying goodbye, and my child became upset and didn't want me to hang up the phone. Next thing I know, stepmom could be heard in the background telling my child to hang up the phone and go snuggle with her. After that phone call, I emailed my ex to tell him I did not appreciate what happened and I don't want it happening again, in much nicer terms to keep tension low. He tells me he is sorry that I didn't like what happened, but next time I need to hurry to wrap up the phone so they don't have to interfere. There's a sign. My ex and stepmom also told my child to call me by my first name rather than mom. Okay, there's another one. I immediately shut that down and told them that was unacceptable. When that happened, they decided that it was disrespectful for my child to call stepmom by her first name also. My ex frequently tells me that stepmom should be allowed every right I have because she is our child's stepmom and it's no big deal. I'm gonna run out of red flags tonight. Stepmom also gets upset when I volunteer in my child's classroom because it doesn't allow her to do so. I've been picking my battles the last few years because there has been a lot of tension and arguments between my ex and I don't want it affecting my child. I bite my tongue on things to avoid adding more arguments. However, I think I may have been too passive and allowed things to go too far. So my question is, would I be the astronaut to tell stepmom that when we are together at events, she needs to take a back seat and allow me to be mom and stop interrupting me or interfering with my scheduling appointments or parenting my child? Candy Thunder left us some notes. Felt strongly enough about it to leave her thoughts here. Candy Thunder's notes: if there's one place that you have to grow a backbone and stand up for yourself, it is as your kid's mother. You have to stand up for yourself. You have to stand up for your kids. As a stepmom, I would never step on a mother's toes in that way. It is simply not my place. I am sorry you are going through this, but I think you need to make doctor's appointments, parent-teacher conferences, etc., just you and your child's dad. Do not include bonus parents. As a parent/guardian, you have the right to decide who is invited into the room. Which leads to a whole nother discussion here. And this is a big if, but if you create a boundary, if you draw a line in the sand and you say this shall not be passed, this is how it will be moving forward, I'm making an assumption here that the parenting plan for your child is between you and your ex, not you and your ex and stepmom. You can get legal here if you need to. So when you create these boundaries, if they're not respected, there may be some kind of legal recourse in here because stepmom has no legal role as a parent or guardian to your child. I think. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving legal advice. However, I do think that if you try to create this boundary and it is met with resistance, that you may be able to consult with an attorney and have some reinforcement there. It is... Depending on how long this has been going on, I understand the sentiment that you think you may have been too passive over time, and yes, you probably have, because they think this is okay. And even when you did speak up about it, they're like, I'm sorry you didn't like that, but next time do things different so you don't have to deal with that. No, that is not the solution here at all. She's clearly stepped on your toes. She's clearly gone too far. She's clearly made your child uncomfortable. The ship needs to be righted here. And if dad isn't willing to get on board and do that, you can pull in reinforcements as you need to. It depends on the agreement, but you're in a situation here where one parent is giving into a system that does not allow frequent and meaningful contact with another parent. It seeks to destroy that. And if anything else, this could be grounds for a change in custody, for a change in the parenting plan. I mean, it could be that serious. You could have that to threaten if this system is not followed. It's horseshit what she's trying to do. It is malicious. This is not an accident. This is not her just wanting to be a good parent to your kid. That's not what this is. This is a competition for her. This is completely selfishly driven for her. This does not come from a good place. And you have to do something about it. Otherwise, given the current trajectory, she's going to continue driving a wedge in between you and your child. And if you don't speak up at some point, you're going to be like, damn, it's too late. We don't like that you call mom. Oh, your mom's still on the phone. Hang up that phone and come cuddle with me, sweetie. Just rubbing it in your face the whole time. Garbage. This is a follower submission again. So OP, God, the internal struggle that you've been dealing with this whole time this is poison. You know what I mean? Like this has been a poison that's building inside of you to this point, and you have to get that poison out. You have to, because this is going to drive you insane, and it's going to cause all kinds of other problems. You have to put a stop to it. You're slowly just getting poisoned over time by drinking little bits of it, but you got to stop. It's unfortunate when you find yourself in those kind of situations. I mean, if for no other reason than the health and welfare of the children, about doctor's visits, school problems. If for no other reason, you got to be able to communicate about those kind of things. You don't have to be friends. You don't have to be besties. You don't have to even like each other, but you have to be able to civilly communicate about your kids. I mean, there's got to be confusion with the kid here, because at dad's, the kid is being told not to call mom, but to call stepmom mom. There's, if nothing else, confusion and an altering of the perceived relationship with mom and with dad. I'm sure you can get through and parent in a blended family without having that civil communication if you have to, but it is so much easier when it's there. When everybody can act like a grown-up, it is so much easier. This is completely selfishly motivated. It is not her trying to do the right thing for the kid. It is her wanting the fulfillment of all the positive things that come along with being mom. When it comes to having to deal with all the negative or difficult things that come along with being a mom, I bet she's not so quick to want the title. Tell you that for free. They could be grooming her for a grab for sole custody and trying to plant the seeds for it. And then by that point, whenever that point is, if they're playing the long game, they're hoping to have established that the child here, calls stepmom mom anyway, goes to stepmom for comfort, treats her like the mom, and now has detached from bio mom. I could see it. I mean, that's maniacal, but I could see it. Dad gets the Ask On one, probably also the Brozo Award here for going along with this shit. I'm sure at her direction and at her insistence, but for allowing this to happen for selfish drivers, not for the best thing for his kid. He's an Ask On one too. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder again with another Reddit story for you. This one is, am I the astronaut for refusing to pay my mother-in-law? I, female 31, gave birth to my beautiful son a week ago. Unfortunately, there were some complications, so I was only released yesterday, but I'm so grateful to be home with our baby boy. When my waters internally broke, my husband, male 33, and I were at home, and I happened to be standing on my bedroom carpet. Cleaning was obviously not the priority, so I threw some towels down and we left for the hospital. During the time we were in the hospital, my mother-in-law, female 59, kindly offered to feed our dogs for us, and we were very appreciative of her help. It was only once we get home yesterday that I saw mother-in-law had left a receipt and note stuck to the fridge saying that she had cleaned my bedroom carpet and wanted to be reimbursed. She had also taken it upon herself to clean the rest of our house while she was at it, and all in all would like a day's pay at $25 per hour plus $200 worth of products. Is this like the intersections where you pull up to, and it's obviously in a more urban areas, but you pull up to the intersection and the guys just like jump on your car and spray your windshield and start scrubbing it, and then they're like, all right, pay me. Like, I didn't ask you to do that. So now, while it was nice of her to clean my carpet and then the rest of my house, neither of us asked her to do this. My husband wrote her the following text. Hello, Mom. We really appreciate your help over the last few days while my name was in the hospital. It was great having someone over to look after the dogs. We noticed your note and receipt on the fridge and are a little upset you took it upon yourself to, 1, snoop through the house, as neither of us had told you about my wife's water breaking in the bedroom, 2, go out and buy hundreds of dollars worth of cleaning products, and then 3, charging us for your time and the aforementioned products. We would also like to ask where these cleaning products are, as if we are paying for them, we would certainly like to get our money's worth. When we entrusted you with the dogs, we really thought you were helping us out of the good of your heart and not giving you an opportunity to make a quick buck. We are family and are hurt that you would do something like this while my wife was so unwell. Can you imagine having to write your mom that message? And done so well, done so diplomatically. My mother-in-law immediately responded to my husband saying that she did what she did out of the kindness of her heart, and she cannot believe we would be so ungrateful. I have also received some text from extended family members saying that mother-in-law didn't have to help me, but she did do it despite her advanced age out of love. I have had to turn off my phone so that I don't have to deal with all the text, but my husband is still getting a lot of hate from his family because we are manipulating the situation and making mother-in-law the bad guy when she was only trying to get the house ready for the baby. I'm quite upset by the whole thing, but my husband is now saying that maybe we should pay to get the extra family off of our back and just enjoy this time as new parents rather than dealing with all this. I'm not okay with paying his mom for anything. She sent another text to my husband earlier saying that she would be happy to gift us the products, i.e. take it off our bill, but she would still like to be paid for her time given that she dealt with a biohazard. That's the end of the story. There's no contract to pay. There's no acquisition of services. There's no insertion order. There's no order. There's no prompt for services. Tell her to take you to small claims court. You didn't request any of this. When she did it of her own volition, she did it assuming the risk and then didn't even tell you about it, left it there on the friggin' fridge for you to find when you got home with your brand new baby. Congratulations, mother-in-law. You've just lost your ability to have a relationship with your new grandbaby. Tell her to go talk to a lawyer. Let her tell the story to a lawyer, and the lawyer will be like, I'm sorry, there's nothing anyone in the world can do to help you because you're stupid. I mean, by that fact, I could just start cleaning in Walmart next time I'm there and send them a bill, right? I could do this anywhere and send them a bill and be like, I took it upon myself. There's a cost of goods sold involved. I had to build up an inventory of cleaning products. I had my rate is $75 an hour. Here's my bill. You'd get laughed out of anywhere for trying to pull this shit. The only reason they are entertaining paying it at all is to get the family off their backs, but it's not gonna work. And here's why. Let's say that you finally give in and pay this ghost invoice that doesn't exist for services that you did not order and that were sort of rendered of her own volition. Let's say that you paid that. Now, instead of family being like, you guys are assholes, you're manipulating the situation, you really should have paid that. Now it's going to be, hey, remember that time you guys were really assholes and manipulated the situation and didn't pay that? You think they're going to drop it for the next 5 years every time they see you at that one family function per year? Hell no. It is going to be the one thing that they want to talk about. That's it. Don't pay it. Tell her to go to small claims court. Better yet, if you're friends with an attorney or you have an attorney yourself, ask them to render a legal opinion letter. And that would at least let her know an attorney's opinion on the matter. Again, not an attorney, not giving legal advice in any way whatsoever, just throwing out ideas. If you do pay it, please go to her house, drop trowel in her bedroom, shit on her carpet, clean it up, and send her a bill for 3 times the bill that she left for you. But take pictures just to establish proof that it was, in fact, there at one point in time. You could even use fake poo if you want to. The real thing would be much better. Yeah, OP, I forget there was even an Am I the Astronaut question here. Am I the astronaut for refusing to pay my mother-in-law? Hell no. An adult-sized pile. You might even step in it. I'm sorry, you didn't have a diaper genie here. So we just wrapped it in one of your bath towels. Beans in the carpet. Smashed in. Eek. Hey there, it is Dusty Thunder again with another Reddit story for you. This one actually comes from Best of Redditor Updates, so you know it's got an update. Title is, I just went on a date with a guy who tried to rob me. He better have had one hell of a pickup line. That's all I'm saying. Originally posted September 22nd, 2015. I can't possibly tell anybody I know about this story, so here it goes. 2 years ago, I returned home from my father's funeral. As soon as I opened the door to my apartment, a guy holding a crowbar came out from my kitchen holding my TV. I live in the city, so robberies are common. The guy began shouting at me, and he clumsily dropped my TV and began holding the crowbar like it was a baseball bat. I was so stunned at what was happening that I didn't move. The guy screamed at me to empty my pockets. From the stress of the last few days with my father passing away, I simply started crying. Not out of fear at what was happening, but because this was literally the worst time of my life. The worst moment. The worst minute and second. While crying hysterically, I gave the guy my wallet. I just sat on the floor and hugged my knees, and I told him through my tears to take whatever you want. He hesitated and looked down at me. He dropped my wallet and sat down beside me. Immediately, he began to comfort me. He began to apologize. He put my TV back on the table and told me that it wasn't damaged. He told me that he lost his job and that his mom needed medicine that he couldn't afford and that they were homeless. He told me all of this while I just wailed. I cried for my father who was lost. I cried for my future, for it was uncertain, and because my home had been intruded on in the most violent way. For a good 10 minutes, I sat on the floor with a guy who had every intent to rob me, telling me that it would be okay and that he was sorry. He begged me not to call the police. I just started screaming at him to get out. He ran so fast that he left the crowbar. I threw it after him as he ran down the street. 2 days later, I came home from work and he was sitting in front of my door. I was so terrified that I pulled out my phone. But he had this look on his face of, I'm not sure how to describe it, remorse, regret. He told me that he told his mom what he did, and his mom made me some soup. He handed me this tiny bowl wrapped in tinfoil. Again, I was stunned and overwhelmed and angry that I slapped the bowl out of his hands and it shattered on the floor. I told him to leave or I was calling the police. He left. I remember he looked upset. I left the soup and shattered bowl outside my door, almost as a warning for him to not come back. About 3 months after that, I got a note in my mail slot from the guy. He told me that his mother had passed away and that he was no longer homeless and that he had a job. He wanted to repay me for breaking into my apartment. He wrote down his address and told me that I was welcome to break into his place if I wanted, but he didn't have much stuff. This all overwhelmed me. I threw away the letter, but I remembered his address. I remember walking by there one day out of curiosity. It was a ratty apartment building across the city. He was walking up to his room and he saw me. He waved. I turned away and left. He ran after me, apologized again, told me he never meant to do what he did. He showed me the program from his mother's funeral that he kept in his wallet. He wasn't lying. She was real. He was real. He was a real person. I don't know what it was, but I believed him. We slowly began to grow together as people. I can't describe it. After a year of maintaining communication and learning about who he was, he enrolled in a local community college and began taking courses to earn credits before applying to university. I helped him study for his history class a lot. He's great at math and science, though. I never invited him over to my apartment, however. No matter how much I got to know him, I was still afraid of him, and he knew that. He knew that I couldn't trust him. But tonight we went out for coffee because he said he had an exam in his World Civ class. When I got there, he said he forgot his book. We just talked for a bit, we laughed, and then he told me that he wanted to cook for me. On a whim, I decided to invite him to my apartment. After picking up some things from the grocery store, he came over. I was so nervous that I was shaking. He noticed, he squeezed my hand, and then he made me dinner. It was amazing. We talked, we laughed. We sat on the floor and watched a movie on the TV that he tried to steal. We made jokes about it. And then he told me that he missed his mom. I gave him a hug and then he left. I don't know what I feel, but I do know that I can't give up on people anymore. Some people just have the shit end of life. Maybe things have a way of working themselves out. And I miss my dad too. All right, so we have an edit, an update, but I need some water because it's an intense read. Written well though. Edit/update. I am beside myself to log on this morning and see this at the top of the page. I've been a Redditor for a few years, but never thought this would happen. Also, to those of you who are messaging/commenting to confirm the validity of this, I guess it never occurred to me when I wrote it that it sounded so ridiculous. It really does. I don't blame you for saying it's false, but it's real. He's real. I'm real. It all happened and is currently happening. Thank you to all who have messaged me and commented. And thank you to 2 people that gave me gold. This is just insane to me. I'm so grateful. So very, very grateful. Edit 2, sorry for neglecting this. Today has been insane with work and hosting a friend's bridal shower. I wanted to clarify a few things about this because I'm getting a lot of messages about a lot of different things. People are saying that I'm being too trusting of him after what happened. You're right, I suppose. I mean, I live in the heart of one of the most dangerous cities. My friend was robbed just a few years ago and was actually physically injured as a result of it, so me trusting him did not constitute me giving him a hug after he broke in. It was much, much more than that. My dad died of a brain aneurysm in March of 2013. He passed away peacefully in his sleep. The thing about my dad, though, was that he was the most generous, most kindest man in this world. I know people like to say that about their parents, but it is true about my dad. When I was 4, I remember him giving these guys a ride from prison. They were released after serving their sentence, but had to walk to get to where they were going. My dad picked them up, had them hop in the back of his pickup truck, and took them home. He put his life, and basically mine, at the hands of these people who could have hurt us. They didn't, thank God. My dad taught me to be selfless and understanding of the world and of people, and I love him for that. But when I lost him, it shattered me and turned me into an entirely different person. After my dad died, I became severely depressed and angry. I was angry at everything. I had to take a leave from my job. I teach 2nd grade. All day I would lay in bed and think about how much I hated God, or whatever higher power, for taking my dad away. Nothing seemed worth it. After the guy, my friend, broke into my apartment, I hated him for a while. I hated my dad for making me so trusting because I didn't call the cops on the guy. I hated my dad for dying. I hated him for being so incredibly compassionate and better than me. I hated myself for being vulnerable. I just hated everything. The guy who tried to rob me is a person. And of course, I constantly ask myself when I'm with him, what happens if he tries to hurt me or rob me again? But the thing about him is that he knows I'm thinking this, and he constantly tries to reassure me. We have grown together as people, as I said. There's a whole 2 years that I didn't post in this recounting because it would be like a novel-length post. Do I like him? I don't think so. I don't think he likes me. I think we both understand, respect, and honor the other for our mutual struggles. We're proud of each other. We're both guilty of things. Me for shutting out my friends, family, and students and becoming an awful person after I lost my dad, and him for going to incredible lengths to try and save his mother from experiencing incredible agony in her final moments. I intend to show him this post. I want him to know. He doesn't have a computer or internet, but I think he'll find this humorous. How his mother died is not my story to tell. What exactly drove him to pry open my front door with a crowbar is not for me to tell. What happened to his family is not for me to tell. But what is for me to tell is that he is human. He is flawed. God, he's so flawed. But after knowing him and learning about his life, about his childhood, the tiny little child who used to be so passionate about school and learning as he was, as he told me, I know that he has his story. I have my story. You have yours. And although I think it is irrelevant, the thought of even dating after the last few years hasn't crossed my mind. Was I involved in relationships prior to my dad's passing? Yes. One was long-term and had a foreseeable end with an engagement, but things happened. Life happens. I'm meeting with him tomorrow at his work while he's on break to give him some old study materials that I have from a literature class I took in college. It's also normal, and I'm not afraid. My dad was never afraid, so I shouldn't have to be. I choose not to be. There is more. Goodness gracious. This is still a ride. This is still a wild ride. And I am, as a voiceover guy, have a lot of respect for how this is written. This is written in a way that is very easy for me to read, so greatly appreciate that. Okay, here we go. Relevant comments. Well, this was backwards of what I thought the story was going to be, was expecting. He was so great and charming. We hit it off right away, and I invited him up to my place. Stupid, I know, on the first date. I went to freshen up, and I heard weird sounds, so I peeked out, and there he was, rummaging through my purse. I asked him what he was doing. This startled him, and he dropped my purse and bolted out my front door. I like yours better. Another user replies, I was expecting, so this guy with a ski mask robbed my place a couple of months ago. A friend of mine set me up on a blind date recently. I kept feeling like I've met this guy before. I know of people who make soup for the homeless. This is the first time I know of a homeless person making soup for someone else. Home invasion and chill? How I mugged your mother. Who should play the characters? Dear God, people have way too much fun with this. Okay, first update, September 24th, 2015, 2 days after the original post. Hey, so I posted a couple of days ago about how I went on a date with this guy who tried to rob me. This is just a quick follow-up, nothing major. Last night I showed him the post and some of the comments from you guys. He was a little apprehensive about this place and the fact that I had shared this with the entire world, but the comments really made him so happy. He wanted me to thank you all, and I tried to get him to make a post of his own, but he thinks it's too weird. Plus, he considers himself a bad speller. I just wanted to update everyone with this little unimportant tidbit. My dad's birthday is in a few weeks. I always have to prepare myself for it year-round, really, but this year is different because I know I have people to support me, especially a really close new friend who came, well, I'd like to say out of nowhere, but he really just came out of my kitchen holding a crowbar. One more thing, when I showed him the post, he looked up at me and went, "Wait, it was a date?" And I got so embarrassed. Then he laughed and told me that he was relieved because he thought it was a date too. We haven't talked about anything else along the lines of dating in the future. I just wanted to extend my gratitude, my thanks, and my love, as well as his, to you all. Thank you, thank you. Second update, March 13th, 2016, 6 months after original post. I've been trying to write this for the past 3 months, but I always kept getting busy. I don't think she meant it that way. I truly don't know what to say because so much has happened in the 6 months since I wrote all of this down for the first time. I want to say this for me, to get this off my chest. I cared about him. I cared for him. I did. I can't deny that. In January, right after the new year started, I got a phone call at 2:30 in the morning from him. He was in jail. He and 2 of his friends were arrested for public intoxication and possession of drug paraphernalia. He wanted me to bail him out. I'm a teacher living on a teacher's salary. I said no, I couldn't. This is when things fell apart. Before then, he and I had been incredibly close. We spent Christmas together. I didn't have enough money for a plane ticket home, so I stayed in the city. He came over, we cooked, watched movies. Before Christmas, we spent Thanksgiving together. I helped him study. I helped him get his finances in order. He had no idea how to do taxes and how to do all of the adult stuff, as he said. But I noticed I started doing things I don't normally do. He would come over in the middle of the night, visibly panicked, and ask if he could stay with me. I let him, no questions asked. I stopped asking questions because I wanted to believe that he was good and everything was fine. He started asking me that if others asked about him, if I would lie and say that I didn't know him. This scared me, but I assumed that it was about work stuff. I wanted it to be about his work stuff. He was released from jail about a week later. He didn't talk to me. I called his apartment, nothing. I came home from work one day and a woman was waiting outside my door. She appeared disheveled. She was wearing a tank top and flip-flops in mid-January in the Northeast. It was cold. When I tried to key into my apartment, she started verbally attacking me. She told me to stay away from him, like she owned him. She told me that she knew what I did to him and that I would get what's coming. She left. I was scared out of my mind. Before calling the police, I decided to call his apartment one last time. He answered. I told him about the woman. He apologized, said that he was seeing her. He didn't intend for her to come over and interfere. But that led to another question. How did she know where I live and how many others had he told where I lived? He hesitated before answering. I remember that, but he just said that he was sorry. I immediately packed an overnight bag, grabbed my most valuable items, and went to stay in a hotel. I used my credit card, my only in case of emergencies card, because I no longer felt safe because of him. I came back to my apartment the next day. Everything was fine. He came over to apologize. I told him to get out. I started crying. When I'm angry, I cry. He tried to hug me, but I remember picking up a piece of wood. I had dismantled an IKEA shelf to protect myself. I demanded to know what he was doing. He told me he was selling drugs. He told me that he had to do it because he knew people that would hurt him. Lies, I guess. I don't know. I told him to get out, never wanted to see him again, etc., etc. He got angry, threatened to come back with his friends. I was wrecked with guilt for trusting him. He apologized again, said he was sorry. I was questioning everything about him. I pushed him out, locked the door. The teaching program that I'm part of rotates teachers in and out of schools across the country. Last year, I put in a request to move across the country to be closer to home. 2 weeks after this encounter with him, I found out that my request was accepted and I was set to leave in March. My apartment was broken into and vandalized in early February. At night, he would come and knock on my door. I would call the police, but he would always leave before they got there. His guys started harassing me. Nothing was ever stolen, just broken. They broke a glass bottle my dad made for me when I was 6. He knew how much that meant to me. It was shattered. The week before I left, I saw him outside my building. I called the police. He was walking over to me. I remember having this fiery rage in me. I was this impassioned, red, angry heat that washed over me, and I took my keys, which are on a lanyard, and I just started hitting him. I ended up cracking his eye socket. When the police questioned him, they realized that he was the one that was harassing me. He was wanted for a myriad of other charges. After he fell down, after I cracked his eye socket with my keys, again, I started kicking him. I wanted him to die. I really did. Then I thought about what my dad would think. By then I realized I'm not my dad. I will never be him. I'm different. This is different. People are different. Not all of them are good, but some of them are. I am good. I am a good person. Right now I'm sitting in my new apartment in this brand new city. It's warm. Rent is cheaper. I live in a neighborhood of old people. They're nice. They love that I teach kids. It makes them feel safe, I guess. Some days I leave my front door open and let in a breeze. I am never afraid. The beach is literally a 7-minute walk. I've timed it from my back door. I am happy. So I'm putting this to rest. It's done. It's over. I'm tired. I'm posting this and not checking back anymore. I just wanted to tell someone because no one in my personal life knew this was happening. I still can't believe it happened, but it did. And it's done. Relevant comments. Holy crap. What an insane story. Don't stop being kind and trusting. The world is full of wonderful people and you're one of them. I'm so happy that you're in a better place and things are going well. Great story. Thanks for sharing. Oof. Yeah, amen to great story. Thanks for sharing. It's like you have to get burned either badly enough or enough times to start defaulting to people are garbage instead of people are good, right? I think you have to get burned enough times to just start immediately seeing the worst in people instead of the best. Or you have to just drive in traffic often enough to know that people are shit. Pain creates change. Yes. Happy she's in a better place as well. But man, like you have to get burned for trusting people. And there was a lot of risk associated with the trust that she was placing in this person. And she knew that and she accepted that because she wanted so much more for him. And here's the kicker. I think everybody who is in some kind of cycle of addiction or cycle of poverty or some kind of cycle that's holding them down needs that one person that's not giving them a hand out, but a hand up. Right. And I think this was a hand up for him. This was someone who was pulling him out of that cycle and out of that incredible gravity that comes along with addiction and crime and that kind of lifestyle, and somebody who pulled him out of that. And it just wasn't enough. Because the gravity of addiction, more so than anything, is incredible. And I don't know that OP could have done anything differently. Maybe asked more questions, maybe held him accountable whenever he showed up in the middle of the night and acted scared and asked if he could stay there, right? Like that would have been the time where if she wanted to really pull him out of that world, some accountability would have to come into play at some point. Instead, it was blind trust. And maybe that's the kicker. Maybe it's that blind trust. Even when there are indicators that should sway the opposite direction, maybe that's it. There's believing the best in people and giving people the benefit of the doubt and believing that people are innately good and not garbage, which is tough, but not blindly. Not when there is direct, repeated evidence to the contrary right in front of you and you're just in denial. So believe the best in people, but not to the point of denial, right? Don't ignore the red flags. They're there. They're real. Trust but verify, right? I think maybe at this point in life, I'm just either becoming an old curmudgeon or just see people be idiots in traffic too much or something. But I feel like everyone by default is driven by selfish intentions. And maybe not bad, maybe not good or bad. I don't think it's as easy as that, but I think everybody is innately selfish. And that when forced to choose between themselves and someone else, most people will choose themselves. Unfortunately, there are definite exceptions to that, but I think you can have this worldview where you believe that people are truly good and have will default to good, and if made to choose life or death between good or not bad but selfishness, that they would choose the benefit of another, or I don't know. And I think in this case it was accountability. Like there was trust, but there has to be trust with accountability. There can't be trust that you can just knowingly abuse. And that's what happened in this story. It was willful abuse of trust. That's where it went sideways. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder again with another Reddit story for you. This one is, am I the astronaut for explaining to a man who refused to mind his business what happens in graphic detail if I drink regular cow's milk in my latte? I had some tests to have run at my local hospital today. And the hospital is a coffee place. It isn't Starbucks, but it's a local place that has a few locations in my area. When I was all done with my medical stuff, I decided to treat myself to a coffee. I got in a long line behind a man that I noticed kept muttering about something. I noticed every time someone in front of him ordered a coffee with some sort of plant milk, he would mutter louder. Finally, he was up to order. He looked around and loudly said, "I want a regular drip coffee with real milk, not this frou-boo BS everyone drinks these days." The barista rolled her eyes and got his coffee. He was standing nearby, messing with his drink or something. I ordered a latte with oat milk. I was kind of waiting for him to say something, but I wasn't officially instigating because I always got oat milk. The guy looks at me and says, "You know that's not milk, right?" I said, "Yeah, I know." Then he says, "It won't kill you to drink regular milk, right? It's good for you." Now here's where I might be the asshole. I said, "Yeah, it won't kill me, but I don't want the Hershey squirts all over my home. I don't want to shit myself from now until there's nothing left in my stomach. So if you don't mind, I'll take my oat milk latte and not shit myself." The guy threw his coffee away and left. The barista was in shock. Now I feel bad, and my husband said it was kind of uncalled for, but also he laughed so hard when I told him. I get so annoyed when people decide that they have some out-of-pocket thing to say to me. Edit, thanks for all the kind responses. I have an issue saying rude things to people being rude to me, then feeling horrible later about it. No, not the asshole at all for explaining in grotesque detail what happens if you drink regular cow's milk. So let me reset that so that I can get my NTA rocking up here. That is fantastic. I think you handled it beautifully. Beautifully. And you know, maybe cow's milk makes him irritable. Maybe he would benefit from some almond milk, and he just doesn't know it. You never know. I think you handled it well. And what? You fought fire with fire. He can dish it out, but he can't take it, clearly, because he's like, "Oh, throwing my coffee away." What? Your coffee with real milk? You just wasted real milk, sir. Like he conceded. He lost when he threw his coffee away, or he just got, like, yeah, even if he just got grossed out and he couldn't drink his coffee anymore, you won. I think you get this. There it is. A little bit of lag behind it, but you get the petty confetti, and it's well worth it. You did the right thing here. And you know what? I think when you speak up for everyone else that is affected but maybe didn't speak up, because this guy, if he was like that there, he's like that everywhere he goes, and everybody just deals with it. Enough people have to stand up to him to make him realize that he's being an asshole, or at least make him just keep it to himself. Maybe he can just, keep his thoughts to himself, like the rest of us do. I think there's an age. Mine's probably going to be 43. Whenever my filter just degrades to nothing, and I say everything that I think, regardless of who hears it and how they take it, and if I offend them. 43. We got about a year and a half, folks. Better get that content done while we can, because after that, I'm getting canceled real quick. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder again with another Reddit story for you. This one is, am I the astronaut for kicking my husband's late wife's parents from our wedding because of a gift that commemorated the late wife? Oh, this has got really awkward and cringy, and all I've done is read the title. My husband, 35 male, and I have been together for 3 years. He has a son, 8 male, from his former wife who passed away 6 years ago. Him being a widower when we met was a sore subject, and rather than acknowledging that the only reason I am here is because she isn't, we instead shifted our perspective. He has reassured me that soulmates are made rather than found. And if he met me before he met his first wife, we both would have had a different love story. But this life that I have with him, we both are grateful for. Now, I know that people here won't like how we think, but knowing that he considers me his greatest love makes me feel secure. And although his late wife did make him happy at the time, he is grateful what role she played in making him the man for me. I'm not writing this to disrespect widowed people. This is just to give you an idea of the kind of dynamic that we both share. He has expressed that him and his late wife were good to each other, took care of each other, and it's unfortunate that she died, but he truly believes that stars were perfectly aligned when we met. Him and his late wife dated in college and married. And as he grew older, he recognized that it wasn't the best decision. He believes that I'm the only partner from all that he has ever had, including his late wife, he's felt the most passionate about and most compatible with. Now, we just had our wedding. There was one big blowout that I experienced from his son's grandparents, his late wife's parents. I don't know what they were thinking, but they definitely had the most inconsiderate choice in wedding presents. An expensive gold-plated photo collage representing his life with his former wife and his current chapter with me. To make it worse, they also gave him a set of cufflinks engraved with mine and hers initials, attached with our respective birthstones, diamond for her, ruby for mine. This made me furious, and I tried to keep quiet, but then the mother had the audacity to tell us, "Oh, Dan," my fiance, "we are so happy you found the kind of soulmate our daughter was." My mouth dropped. This is our wedding, and it should be entirely about us. So I told her, "I am his only soulmate. Your gift is beyond disrespectful to our relationship, and I am surprised you even thought it was an appropriate thing to gift. We do not need your daughter's memories to be a part of our marriage. We won't accept your gift to honor another woman in our home." I know the last sentence will make me an asshole. This resulted in an argument that I was compelled to kick them both out and disinvite them from our wedding the next day. I am happy that wedding went as planned despite this, and my husband and I both felt that what I did was right. I just got a series of texts from the late wife's brother blowing up my phone with all kinds of nastiness. I promptly blocked him. So did my husband. Am I the astronaut for how I handled things? Edit, to all those wondering if I mean to honor her, my stepson doesn't remember much about his mother. She was mostly keeping sick, so my husband raised him practically. Yes, he has a few pictures of her in his room, but his room is the only appropriate place to make space for her pictures. I wouldn't mind if he wants to dedicate 3 walls of his room to commemorate his mother. He shouldn't have to forget his mother, and I shouldn't have to make my marital home about another woman. It's a happy compromise, and my stepson and I have a good relationship despite what you think. Edit 2, my husband sold the house that he shared with his late wife, and I had some savings of my own. So we used all of that money to fund this wedding and buy a bigger home in a nicer area. Our marital home should be a reflection of our lives together, not the one he shared with his late wife. Yes, the late wife is my stepson's mother, but that's as far as I can get. And no, my stepson never has a problem about it or raised any issues. We have a good relationship of our own, and he has his dad to talk to or his grandparents if he wants to know about his mom. How do y'all feel about this? I think I know how I feel. Like, from the rip, my feeling here was, OP, all of the things that you were told to pacify your insecurity. You being the only soulmate of his life, soulmates, like everything that was, you were the only one for me, feels like he didn't want her to compete with the memory of his late wife. So he presented this, but he's followed through with it. That's the odd part for me, is that to his late wife's family, he has followed through with being firm with what he told her, which it feels like there's a lot of insecurity here. And throughout this, until OP clarified about her stepson, who she calls stepson, which bothers me too, but until she clarified his feelings, or at least what she perceives his feelings and sentiment to be, this whole thing to me was like, dude, they have a kid left from that marriage as well. It's much more than your new husband's ex-lover. It's much more than that. It's much, much more than that. And not allowing that memory is a huge disrespect to your bonus son's mother here. Ugh. But then she at least clarified what her perspective is. I feel like the gift that they gave was a bit much. But it was seeded with like hopes. I feel like there wasn't malicious intent behind what they were doing. I feel like they were seeded with the highest hopes that she was the kind of woman that would be okay, would respect the ultimate form of his ex-wife's memory and the child's mother's memory. And we have had stories before where like the title of the story was my wife just met my girlfriend, but it was his wife who had passed away, and he took his girlfriend out to the gravesite to meet her because it was important to him that she be accepting of the role that she played there. And maybe everything is as OP's husband says it is now. Maybe they really had some sort of dysfunction in there, and maybe he felt like the stars really did align just for them, and she really is his soulmate. Everything reads here deep-rooted insecurities, and what she says, she's convinced that the stepson is fine with it. Even if he's not, she would have convinced herself that he is. I'll put it that way. I can't say that he's not because I don't know, but I can say that because of the insecure tone that this feels like it was written in, that even if he wasn't, she would say that he was, if that makes sense. The gift was too much. I agree with that. The gift was too much. He was stepping too far. I think they were doing it with the hopes that this would be like a magical kumbaya kind of thing, and it just wasn't. So you know what we can do? We can say this. While I don't feel like or deceased wife's parents' gift was I don't feel like it was inappropriate. I don't feel like it was appropriate. There, I misspoke before. I don't feel like it was malicious. It wasn't appropriate, but it wasn't malicious. Meanwhile, OP is deeply insecure, and those two things just collided. So you've got somebody overstepping and somebody overprotective, and those two things just are oil and water, and they did not mix, and it turned into an everybody sucks. Cufflinks were over the top. Yeah, I mean, everything that they did was over the top. It was too far, but it wasn't malicious. Meanwhile, if you had somebody who was selfless and who wasn't insecure, I don't think it would have been perceived as offensive. I don't think it would have been perceived as disrespectful. It was too far, but she's also deeply insecure about not allowing any memory of her in the house, except for enclosed rooms that are her stepsons. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder again with another Reddit story for you, and this one is titled, Am I the Astronaut for Refusing to Let My Wife Name Our Kid Something Stupid? I can't wait to hear what this name is. Me, 25 male, and my wife, 23 female, are having our first child together. She's currently 9 months pregnant and could give birth anytime in the next couple of weeks. The only major fight we have had throughout her pregnancy happened a couple of days ago, and it was about what we were going to name our kid. It all started when we found out the gender of the baby. We didn't do a gender reveal and decided to find out the gender at one of her checkups because we didn't want to spend time making 2 lists of names and then have to get rid of one after. So after we found out that we were having a baby boy, we sat down together and made a list. Almost all of the names she suggested were normal until the one that caused me to write this post. She suggested we name our son Mune. M-U-N-E. She told me the name was from this movie she watched when she was younger and that it always stuck with her. I told her the name was a little out there and he would get made fun of for it. She claimed he wouldn't, and we started going back and forth trying to decide whether to add the name to the list or not. Eventually, she agreed to keep the name off the list. We picked something that we liked, and I thought that was that. Later on in the pregnancy, her mom decided to throw a baby shower as it was her first grandchild, and my wife's pregnancy was almost over and we hadn't celebrated once. It was fine for the most part until we started to open the gifts. Most of them were normal baby things like diapers to bottles until we got to her mom's gift. My wife opened the gift bag and pulled out a blue handmade blanket. It seemed normal enough at first until my wife unfolded it, and lo and behold, there was the name Mune written on the blanket. When I saw it, I was pissed, but didn't want to cause a scene, so I stayed quiet. After that reveal, I had family members come up to me and ask me about the name and why I hadn't told them. I didn't know what to tell them as I didn't have a clue about this either, and just had to embarrassingly tell my family that, which pissed me off even more. Once the event ended and me and my wife went home, I started to question her about the name. She got defensive and told me that it was a good name and that I was overreacting about it. I brought up the earlier points and told her that it was a stupid name for a kid, and if she wanted to name something Mune so bad she could use the name for a dog. She got upset and called her mom to come get her. After she left, she called me and told me that she wouldn't be coming back for a while. Everyone I've talked to about this have said I'm not the asshole, but now that my wife has been gone and I've been thinking about it, I feel like I could have handled the situation better. Am I the astronaut? Okay, there's a comment to read here, but I'm so glad that he said what he said here. He said, I feel like I could have handled the situation better. He's like speaking the ASCON scale. So we'll get to it in a second, but he planted a seed for where he might be on the ASCON scale here. Top comment, tell your wife this, or better yet, have her read this. Naming a baby is a 2 yes or 1 no situation. You do not name a child something your partner does not agree with. You find a compromise. This is the start of many necessary compromises in life, And it is a total asshole move to unilaterally decide on a child's name despite your partner's misgivings. You need to put your foot down hard on this because what she is doing is 100% not okay. She is absolutely not mature enough for motherhood if she cannot find a reasonable compromise on this. I am a mom to several kids. There are names I have loved that my husband has not, and there are names my husband has loved and I have not. We have always landed on a name that ended up being a great fit for our children. They may not have been our first choices, but it's not about winning. It's about finding a name that you both love that will be a good fit for your child no matter what career they might have in life. And Chief Justice Mune just doesn't have any weight. The only thing a name like Mune is good for if your kid ends up the drummer in a metal band. I absolutely agree with this comment. It has to be a 2 yes or a 1 no type scenario. However, when your wife is uber pregnant and can go into labor at any time, how you handle things requires a more delicate touch, right? And I think that's where he's like, I could have handled this better. And you could have handled it better because of where she's at, but that's it. She does not get to make this decision without you. I mean, I guess she technically can, right? Can she? Can she write any name that she wants on a birth certificate without his input? So she could. But it wouldn't be smart if she wants to have a successful marriage. The only thing here is that maybe approaching it a different. No, you know what? I think the way that you approached it was completely fine. This is an NTA for you. I am happy to see you questioning the way that you approached it to say basically like, could I have done this differently? Could I have done this better? Only someone who gives a shit would think like that. So kudos to you. Your wife, on the other hand, was either manipulated by her mother, who really likes the name Mune, and that's why mother-in-law now went ahead and freaking had it embroidered on some shit to seal the deal and basically be like, well, he can't fight against that. Once it's embroidered, it's final. Which is totally a play that I could see would be possible here. Or your wife made the decision without your knowing, which means that she knowingly went against something that you guys agreed upon, which is a breach in trust, which is a whole bunch of other problems here. And I think maybe that reminder would be good. I do think pitching the 2 yes, 1 no path is worth it here. And it would be worth letting her know that, hey, if you push this forward and make this our child's name, it's going to lead to marital problems for us. At least show her what the path could entail if she continues pushing down this way, but now you have a trust issue.